Hello and welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. My name is Chris, and today we're going to cover 9 tips for podcast audio production. I'm getting these from the small blog posts I write about 3 times a week. I call them daily goodies. And you can actually sign up on the website to receive these daily goodies in your email if you want to. Just go to podcastengineeringschool.com and you'll see the place to sign up for the daily goodies. The next semester of Podcast Engineering School starts on September 13th, 2022. So that's exciting in the fall. Also, links to each and every daily goodie are in the show notes. So everything I'm going to cover, all the daily goodies I'm going to cover, I'm going to link to them in the show notes. And a couple other quick announcements before we get into the 9 tips. I did not get chosen to speak at Podcast Movement in August, which is in Dallas, I believe. So I probably will not be attending, which is a shame because I went to PodFest about a month ago. It was really fun, although I'm still lingering sick since then, which is weird. But the other announcement is the Podcast Services Mastermind Workshop. So if you're a podcast editor or producer and you offer other services and you want to build your business and get clients and all that stuff, Steve Stewart and Mark Deal are putting on this Podcast Services Mastermind Workshop. I believe right now the cost is $200, and I'll put the link in the show notes. The thing is, little mastermind workshops like this, I think it's a one-day thing. If you really need just like a kick in the pants to get yourself going, events like this can do it. So if you really want to, take your business to the next level, whatever, consider this program. So I'll link it in the show notes below. So let's go. The first daily goodie is, what is mastering in podcast production? So mastering is a step or a phase of audio production, and it's usually the last step when the final audio is finalized. And it comes from music. There's a whole history of mastering. I go over it in PES when I teach the full course. But basically, so for podcast production, the mastering step is where you will set the final audio level of the final episode to either minus 19 LUFS for mono or minus 16 LUFS for stereo. That's like the last adjustment you need to make to the audio before you send it out into the world, because those are the loudness standards, the unofficial loudness standards. But it's good to adhere to those because it helps the listener have a good experience. So that's what the mastering step is mainly for. But crazy people like me and some of the graduates of PES, we like to use the mastering step as an opportunity to basically tweak the audio a little bit more. Maybe use a limiter. When we're pushing up the volume, maybe we can use a limiter to chop off the peaks. Maybe we want to just add a little EQ, or maybe even some saturation a little bit, or even some exciters. Maybe you just want to add a little bit of an exciter to the high frequencies just to make it a little more crisp. Anyway, there's a lot you can do in the mastering step. One thing I will say about any process you do in the mastering step should probably be minimal, because you don't want to do any, massive EQing or massive compression during the mastering step, because those are things you should do in the mixing phase, right? The mixing phase is where you should basically finish the entire mix in the episode. So everything sounds good, everything's done, everything's mixed well, you're done. You're literally done. But then what you can do is, in the next phase, the mastering phase, just kind of put the finishing touch on it. So that's what the mastering phase is good for. But again, the main concept is to get the loudness correct. But if you want to do other things, you can. Just to put the cherry on top of your mix. Okay, next daily goodie. Musicians can fund their music careers by earning $50 to $150 per hour producing podcasts from home. Yeah, so I wrote this post because I think a lot of musicians who maybe are sitting at home or maybe working a dead-end job or not excited by their career, maybe musicians, because they're into audio, they can start producing podcasts from home. And you can make a lot of money, right? $50 an hour, all the way up to $150 an hour. I mean, that's a general range, right? Like you can make whatever you want to make. This is, as an entrepreneur, you can set your own terms, but these are just basic numbers I'm throwing out there. So anyway, that as part of the marketing for Podcast Engineering School, I'm trying to find musicians who want to start producing podcasts because there's so much available work out there. Podcasts are more popular than ever. A lot of people are doing video podcasts now and live streams but they still have producers and editors and stuff. So anyway, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and especially for musicians. So I sometimes, when I talk to parents, if they have, kids who are in their 20s who are still living in the parents' basement, right? I just throw it out there that, hey, maybe your child can learn a skill, a really valuable skill of how to produce good audio, and then literally from the basement, make a great living. So anyway, that's what that post was about. Let's move on to the next Daily Goody. Name one song that sounds amazing or perfect to you. So I don't know. This post was interesting to me because I think we all have our favorite songs. We all have our favorite bands for sure. But if you're into audio, then you definitely notice the differences in the sounds of various albums. Some albums sound great. Some albums sound okay. You know what I mean? Like for instance, my favorite example of a bad sounding album is Blizzard of Oz, the album that Ozzy made in the early 80s with Randy Rhoads. It's one of the greatest albums of all time, but the sound of it, the quality of the recordings and the mixes, awful. Pretty awful. But it's amazing because the songs are so good, the album holds up, right? But there are other albums that probably sound great, but then the songs are not that good. So I asked you guys what you thought. And by the way, my answer to this was the song Pneuma by Tool. And I actually linked to it in the Daily Goody if you want to link to it. Barry Gary also commented Steely Dan is one of his favorite bands because of the sound. Larry Barr said one of his all-time favorites is Dwight Yoakam's Turn It On, Turn It Up, Turn Me Loose. And Leslie Martin said 1985 David Pack, Michael McDonald, and James Ingram had a hit with Pack's song titled I Just Can't Let Go. So it's interesting. Anyway, so the question is to you. What is a song, or maybe even an album, but what is a song that you think sounds perfect? The audio just sounds amazing. You can comment on the post. I don't know. I thought I would just do that for some fun. Let's move on. The next Daily Goody is a pair of headphones, the AKG K240s. These are very popular headphones. They're about $100 for a pair of headphones, which is good. And the quality is good. I would call them middle of the road headphones, but probably better than middle of the road for sure. I have a bunch of these. These are headphones we used to use in the studios a lot because, again, they're sort of just good. They're not expensive, but they are good quality headphones. Yeah, because the quality of your headphones, makes a difference in your experience producing audio, right? I mean, you can produce great audio using pretty much any headphones or monitors, as long as you understand what you're hearing. Your ears are tuned to those headphones or monitors. But yeah, these AKG K240s are pretty good. So I'm curious, if you want to comment on what you're using and how you like them. My other headphones, my good headphones are the Sennheiser HD 650s, which are real nice. Those are more expensive. I think those are around $300 for a pair, something like that. Anyway, if you ever have a studio and you need to buy like 4 pairs of headphones, that's where these $100 per pair headphones can really be, a good choice, because again, it's not too much money, but the quality of them is very high. All right, next daily goodie. Background noise is exacerbated by compression. Okay, I love this one. This is so fundamental to audio production. Background noise is exacerbated by compression. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about background noise. Of course, background noise is like, if someone has an air conditioner running in the background, or, a dog barking in the next room, or, cars driving by right outside the window, right? There's all kinds of noise. Or just even the HVAC system, the air vents in the room, shh. So background noise, there's a lot of different types of background noise. And what we don't want in professional audio production is we don't want background noise. We just want to hear the person's voice. For instance, in podcasting, if we're talking about a person's voice, we want to hear their voice, and that's it. We don't want to hear background noise. So a really good habit of any good podcast engineer or podcast producer, just a great fundamental habit, is to make sure that when you're recording audio, there is as little as possible background noise wherever you're recording in the room. So, if there's a fan, turn off the fan, right? And all that stuff. So, you can do a lot to minimize the background noise. And the reason you want to do that, the main reason, is because after everything's recorded and you start the post-production and you start adding EQs and compressors and other things to enhance the sound of the audio, if there's any background noise in there, you're going to hear it. And especially with compression, because what compression does essentially is compress the dynamic range so that the loud sections are not extremely loud, and also the extremely quiet sections are not extremely quiet, right? You sort of compress the dynamic range so that it's better for the listener because they don't have to ride the volume knob and get their ears blown out. The problem with using compression, though, and by the way, I use compression on definitely, I'd say every single voice that I process when I'm producing podcasts, I use at least one compressor. Sometimes I use 2 compressors. So compression is one of these processes that if you're going to have professional audio, you need to use compressors, basically. That's basically what it comes down to. But yeah, if you have any background noise, the compression is going to exacerbate the background noise, meaning the background noise is going to get louder. So you don't want that. So that's why when you're recording, in the recording phase, you want to limit the amount of background noise so that when you get to the post-production, you can use more compression without a huge fear that you're going to be bringing up the background noise and making the background noise basically loud. So you don't want to do that. So I hope that made sense. I think it did. Oh, here's a great one. The next daily goodie. This is a new plugin that I bought. It's called SplitEQ, and it's from Eventide. And it's a really cool EQ, and I haven't used it nearly enough, but I am going to use it on this episode. So I'm going to sort of use this EQ in post-production on my voice to demonstrate something. But anyway, it's called the SplitEQ from Eventide, and it's an EQ, and I'm sure it sounds really good. Like, I've used it a few times. It sounds pretty good. So this SplitEQ is unique because for each EQ band, you can adjust it in 2 different ways. One is with a transient adjustment, which it's kind of like, normally with an EQ, if you boost the high frequencies, you're boosting everything, right, in the high frequencies. But the SplitEQ splits it, so you can boost. Let's just say, and this is this is the experiment we're going to do right now on my voice. I'm going to demonstrate this for you. Let's say from 2 kilohertz and above, we're going to add a bunch of high frequencies, right? We're going to boost the high frequencies. Well, normally with an EQ, you just boost everything. But with the split EQ, you can separately boost the transient information and also the tonal information. So the transient information is like the transients of the T's, the K's, the plosive, the P's, and that's the quick spikes. Where it spikes up quick but then it diminishes really quickly too. Those are the transients. And the tonal information is just the more steady tonal, the tone. That's tonal information. So this EQ, you can adjust the transients and the tonal information separately. So what I want to do, and I'm excited to do this because I haven't done it yet, even for myself, right? I want to boost my voice right now. I'm going to boost the high frequencies from 2 kilohertz and above. First, I'm going to boost it with just the transient information boost. And then I'm going to boost it with just the tonal information boost. And I want to see how it turns out. So, okay, so let's do it. So far, by the way, in this episode, you've been listening to my voice. I'm on the SM7B. And I'm not using any EQ. I'm using a little bit of compression on my channel strip, which of course is a Neve Portico 2. And I probably will EQ my voice in post a little bit, but what you've been hearing so far this is how my voice sounds on this episode. So right now, let's switch it up and I'm going to boost the transient information. All right, so as I mentioned, right now, I'm boosting the transient information from about 2 kilohertz and above. So right now, you should hear, the clarity of my transients should be even more clear. They should be enhanced. So it should be, very clear and pronounced transients in my voice right now. And hopefully you can hear that difference. So let's go back now. Okay, right now we're back to my voice flat, just with the SM7B and whatever normal processing I do. So this is just the normal SM7B again. This is kind of like a palate cleanse. This is just my normal sounding voice again. And now we're going to boost the tonal information. Okay, so now we're boosting the tonal information only from 2 kilohertz and above. I'm boosting the tonal information, and I'm really curious about how this sounds. So my transients should kind of stay the same as they were, but now we're boosting the high frequencies, but only the tonal portion of the high frequencies. So I wonder how this sounds, and so we're still boosting the tonal information, and so right now, let's go back to our baseline again. Okay, we're back to our baseline, just the SM7B, pretty much flat. And there you go. So you heard the difference there. I would suggest rewind the podcast, listen again, and try to, if you want to, of course, but listen more critically, right, to the changes in the sound. And by hearing me go from one to the other, you might be able to hear the difference here, which is really interesting. So, okay, so basically, one thing I definitely want to mention is the split EQ from Eventide, right? It seems cool. I hope it sounds cool, what I just did. But I want to say that this is kind of like a more exotic plugin for podcast production. So you probably don't, what I'm saying is you definitely don't need this plugin, right? You don't need to boost transient information separately from tonal information. It's not a need, right? For me, it was a want. I heard that there was a new kind of EQ, right? I mean, I think this is the first EQ of its kind, if I'm not mistaken. So I was psyched to try it. So I wonder I'm so curious how that's going to sound in post-production. Because again, I haven't done this before, but I'm going to do it for this episode. All right, next Daily Goody. 3 different categories of noise to avoid when recording podcasts. Okay, cool. So this one fits into one of our earlier points. So what are 3 different categories of noise that we should avoid? Number 1 is noise due to a bad microphone. You'll probably hear that scratchy, crunchy sound or distorted sound. And by the way, this is extremely rare. Like a microphone going bad or even a cable going bad is very rare. But it does happen. It does happen, but it's rare. Okay, number 2. Background noise from air vents, air conditioners, fans, cars driving by, etc. Yeah, avoid this by recording in a quiet environment. Okay, so this second type of noise is the noise that I was referring to earlier. Just background noise in the room with you, right? And a third type of background noise is bleed from other participants who are in the same room as you. So if you have 2 or 3 people in the same room, and even if everyone has their own microphone, and even if everyone's microphone is 3 inches from their mouth, you're still going to get bleed from other participants going into other mics because the sound of each person's voice just bounces around the room and pretty much goes into all the mics. Although a lot more of your voice goes into the mic that's right in front of your face, right? 3 inches or 2 inches in front of your face. Most of your voice is the loudest part of, or the majority of the recording is going to be the direct sound right from your mouth into the mic. But still, if there's other mics open in the room, some of your voice is going to go into those mics, just a little bit. So this is good to know because, again, one of the best things you can do in this scenario, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 people in a room, is just have everyone's microphone really close to their mouth, right? That's a given. That's like the fundamental of fundamentals. If you have multiple people in one room, is that everyone's mic should be really close to their mouth. That's it. That will save you, that'll cut down on the bleed so much, right? So that's if you're in the same room. And of course, if you use services like Squadcast or Riverside or Zencastr, they offer echo cancellation. So if people are bleeding, other voices are bleeding into other people's tracks, these services, you can turn on basically echo cancellation and it removes that. So that's pretty cool. It's not recommended to use the echo cancellation in those programs because the way you can easily avoid it is just for everyone to wear headphones. But if you have one participant who in the year 2022 does not have headphones or earbuds, then you got to turn on the echo cancellation in Squadcast or Zencastr or Riverside. So, okay, next daily goodie. Oh, this is the second to last. Oh, this is an interesting one. One participant using a condenser microphone, the other using a dynamic microphone. Okay, now, just to step back, obviously, another fundamental of fundamentals is that different mics sound different on different participants. So just because in this example we're talking about one participant using a condenser and the other using a dynamic, just that fact alone doesn't say anything about the sound. Now you might think the condenser microphone will pick up more high frequencies and it'll sound more crystal clear, which is usually the case. But again, it depends on the person's voice. So, but typically, so let's go to the typical scenario of how this would turn out. Yes, the person speaking into the condenser microphone is going to sound much more clear and present. It just more, almost it'll sound high definition compared to the person speaking into the dynamic mic, right? That's one of the ways to think about it. That's one of the ways it can sound. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, and so some people, when they use dynamic mics, especially like with this SM7B that I'm using right now, this is kind of a dull microphone. It doesn't have a lot of sharp high frequencies. So on some people's voices, including mine, this SM7B can sound quite dull. It doesn't sound present enough. So anyway, that's just the difference. That's just one scenario of the difference. And the other reality of this is that when you go to post-production, you got to use your ears. For me, I don't even care if when it comes to the mixing process, I don't care if someone was using a condenser or a dynamic. I don't care at that point in the mixing phase. My only job in the mixing phase is to make everybody sound good on their own and then make everybody sound good together compared to each other, right? That's mixing. So in the mixing phase, I don't really care what mic they used, but anyway, it's just an interesting point to talk about because you will hear podcasts where, let's say the host has a really nice condenser microphone and they sound crystal clear and amazing. And then you'll have a guest, maybe they're using earbuds or maybe they're using like an SM7B or something, and they just sound quite a bit more dull. So, I mean, so how would you fix that? Well, you either remove some of the high frequencies from the condenser microphone person, or you boost some high frequencies in the dynamic mic. So that's how you can sort of even out the amount of clarity and high frequencies comparatively to each other, right? That's how you would do it. All right, this is our last one. What is it? It's loading. I should probably load this before no, it usually works quickly, but okay. Do you feel hurried or chill when you edit your podcast? Do you feel like you're in a hurry when you edit your podcast, or do you feel just relaxed and chill? Personally, when I do editing and post-production, I like to kind of knock it out and, edit swiftly to knock it out because I want to get the work done, right? But I definitely don't rush. I don't ever rush. I don't do that ever. That's not my mindset or my attitude. Basically, I get in a zone and I focus intently. But I do try to knock out the work, right? Knock out the work. So curious how you do it. Do you feel hurried? I mean, I know some people who, if they wait till the last minute to record their podcast, then it's like, ooh, they have to record it and then like immediately do post-production and edit and then literally post it, right? Publish it immediately. In those cases, okay, maybe if it's late at night, you just want to get it done and publish the thing. I get it. But anyway, but I also know there are some people who, especially podcasters who are not audio production type people. They don't consider themselves editors or engineers or producers. Like they're more just the average podcaster who just doesn't care about the audio production. They just want to get through it and get it done, right? Because they know at least if they're using decent equipment and they're using it properly, then you don't have to go crazy mixing and editing and all this stuff, right? Sometimes. So some people, they don't want to, they don't really care about audio quality so much, as long as it's good enough, right? The old good enough standard, right? So those people, yeah, I could see those people who are not really into audio production. Maybe they just want to hurry through the process, right? They just want to knock it out and get it done. But certainly if you're into audio, you'll at least take a little more time to do it right. And especially if you're a podcast editor who has clients, then of course, yeah, you're making sure you do it right. Although you're also knocking out the work, right? So you can finish producing episodes and go out for a walk in nature or go live your life or go play your guitar or your drums, right? So that is it for today. I want to say that I appreciate you listening. I hope these episodes are helpful. I know I haven't done an interview in forever, but at some point I'll do more interviews. I really will. It's not that I'll never do interviews again. So if you're interested in being interviewed on this show by me, if you want to come on the show and chat with me, send me a note through the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. And I want to tell you that I'm going to have a summer sale on my smaller course, Getting New Clients at Higher Rates. It's basically a video course. It's on demand. So basically when you buy this course, you can immediately watch all the videos and do all the lessons and all that stuff. You get all the materials, do all the lessons. It's not like the big course, right? Podcast Engineering School, where that's a major undertaking there. But this smaller course, Getting New Clients at Higher Rates, I want to have a summer sale. So I'm going to offer a huge discount. Normally the course goes for $795, but I am going to have a huge summer discount, but I'm not going to put the discount price on the website. I'm only going to offer this discount to you guys who are, avid listeners of this show, because it's like a reward for you. If you want this course, I'll give you a huge discount. Just email me. Email me and say, hey, Chris, I'm interested in the smaller course. How much is it going to be? So, and again, you can email me just through the contact page on the website, podcastengineeringschool.com, and the link's in the show notes. So yeah, if you're interested in the smaller course at a huge discount, email me. Other than that, I hope your summer's going well. I hope you get to enjoy some nature and some outdoors and some friends and some hanging out and some conferences, and right? Let's do it, because man, it's almost July. Yeah, tomorrow's July. Well, and I'm going to probably put this out today. So yeah, tomorrow's July. All right, that's it. Enough of me. I'm done. I'm gone. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.